students call me Lama Linda, and I lead a Vajrayana Buddhist Sangha in Toronto called Awaken in Toronto. And students often come to me and say, "I'm really keen. I want to get moving on this awakening path. What can I do? What does one do to awaken? What are the steps one must take, and where do I start?" And what I remind them is that there are generally four paths to awakening. And students do a combination of all four of these. It's not just one thing at a time, but it's very important to know all four paths and to check in with your teacher and to find out, well, what path is for me and what do I feel led to do more of? Because many students will find that one of the paths in particular will be what's will take them to awakening faster. And yet, truly, a balance between all four of these paths is really important in terms of making progress on the path to awakening. So I'll tell you what the four paths are, and then I'll go into each of them a little bit more in detail. So the four paths are meditation, study, karma yoga, and shadow work. And the first one is probably the one everybody thinks of when they think of the Buddhist path or the path to awakening. And this is the meditation path, where one sits, perhaps does one of the other three postures like lying, standing, and moving. But in general, we think of meditation in a sitting, quiet perspective and think that meditation is the way that we will awaken. And yet, from the Western point of view, most Westerners do not awaken from meditation, and simply we're just not used to it. Our bodies aren't used to it. We don't have the minds for it. Life is so busy. Many of us are parents. We're making a living. We don't have time for it. And we might do small amounts of meditation, but if you really want to do meditation as your path to awaken, you need to do 2 hours a day minimum. Probably 4 or 6 is better, which means probably being in some kind of a monastic setting where you can devote long periods of time. Maybe you need to go on a long retreat. It's possible to do long retreats, and many students will say, "Oh, I did a weekend," or "Oh, you know what, I worked up to a week." And yet you're just starting to scratch the surface. You're barely able to shake off your everyday life when you're doing these short retreats. And if you really want to use the path of meditation to awaken, you're probably going to want to do longer retreats, like 3 months, maybe even working up to a 3-year retreat. It's pretty common to do quite extensive meditation if that's your path of choice. So allow yourself to imagine pushing the envelope of what meditation looks like, more than short daily practices. The second path is the path of study. And while meditation will give you the experience, you'll find that often study is priming of the pump and gives the teachings and gives you the opportunity to introduce the mind to ideas that you may want to take then to meditation. But study is really about going deeper into some of the original texts, like really reading the original texts. That might involve needing to learn languages to be able to study the original texts. More and more, we're getting translations, and some pretty good translations, which makes it a lot easier as a Westerner and as an English speaker to be able to access the original sutras as given by the Buddha. But you may find some of the commentaries also quite good to study. For the untrained Western mind, it's really hard to make sense of many of the original teachings and the classes. The words of the Buddha often are in a somewhat poetic kind of way. The way that they speak, the way they spoke then was not like we speak today. And you might find commentaries that where someone writes about the sutras might be a lot easier to understand, take you somewhere a lot better. But when we talk about study as one of the paths, we're talking about deep dives in. We're not talking about, I listened to a podcast for 10 minutes. We're addicted to these short podcasts or short articles about things. And while those are great to intersperse our spiritual path into daily life, they're not deep enough to really take us very far. And if you really want to get moving on the path to awakening, it's important to really dive deeply into study and to choose different ways of studying the profound scriptures and sutras that are all around. The third path one could take is the path of karma yoga. And karma yoga sounds like it's connected to hatha yoga, but really karma yoga is doing what's needed for a spiritual center or teacher, even if it's not what you like to do. And karma yoga is all about challenging the preference mind and stepping up, being willing to contribute, to do whatever's needed, cleaning toilets, doing marketing, planting seeds, and not showing up saying, I like doing this, therefore I'm willing to do it for a while, but actually being willing to see what the Buddhist teacher organization might need and how you might be able to be of service. Could be also for some sort of non-Buddhist organization, but it's only karma yoga if you're actually doing what's needed for them and not what you want to do. And this is one of the big differences between volunteerism and karma yoga, that with volunteerism, you think about what you would like to do, either what you'd like to contribute or maybe what you'd like to learn, and it's all about you. But that's not karma yoga, because if there's so much you and the ego, you won't actually gain the benefit of it. And sometimes there's a lot more learning to be had in seeing your own preference mind and seeing how you like to do certain things and you don't like to do other things. So karma yoga is a great path and something one can sign up for 3 months to do at different sites, different places. It might be more of a weekly commitment to do on behalf of a group. You could also make long-term karma yoga commitments to do other work for teachers and centers. And the fourth path to awakening is shadow work. And this is a combination of East and West, and it recognizes that, in the East, often it was intense practice with teachers, and teachers would sometimes make you do things that seemed kind of like crazy wisdom, where you'd have to do things that didn't make any sense to the rational mind. And from a Western perspective, it's more about having a teacher point out your biases and your preferences and helping to take you to the place where you are challenged, and you're challenged to see things that you might not see on your own. So the thing to know about shadow work is you cannot do it alone, because you'll just not see it. If it's that easy to see, it's not a shadow. So in order to be a shadow, it must be something pointed out by either a teacher or a Sangha member or a spiritual friend, someone who can actually notice your clinging in whatever way, whatever version you have to clinging, but noticing that it's something that is holding you back. So there's lots of ways of doing shadow work. Sometimes it's done one-on-one with a teacher. Sometimes a teacher will assign challenges, and this is one that my teacher Qapel came up with. This pattern, this method of doing challenges, where the teacher assigns challenges to the student. And they do it in one of 3 ways. They assign weekly challenges, which are made to break up your habits. We often have our strongest habits in our routines, like our morning routines, could be our evening routines, our exercise routines, the way we drink coffee in the morning, what we put in it, the way that we exercise, move our bodies. There are other routines that are habits that could be practiced and broken on a weekly basis. When you do it weekly, what you're invited to do is to break your habit for a week and to do something different for that entire week, once a day. And then at the end of the week, you're allowed to go back to the original habit. And the purpose of it is not actually to stop a habit. It's not to give up smoking or something like that, but rather it's about noticing how it feels, what you think as you break a habit, and what it's like to do something different and to loosen your need to do it, your addiction to do it. Even any of these sort of things that we don't think of it as an addiction, but it's that drive, it's the need to do something in a certain way. And if we can break that habit, we are doing shadow work. So in addition to weekly challenges, you might also be given a monthly challenge. And monthly challenges are where you're invited to develop a new part of your life that you've never done before. So it's making up for a lack, as it's called. So finding something that is outside of your identity, something you've never tried, something you've never done, something you've never tasted or eaten or imagined. And with the lack, it's either like a one-off. It could be, I'm going to do axe throwing, something I've never done before. Could be, I'm going to do my own taxes this year. So it could be a one-off event like that. But monthly challenges can also be regular classes you might sign up for. So signing up for, an accounting course, signing up for a painting class, something that you might just have never done before because it really was not me. And with shadow work, you're invited to step outside of the not me and to try being a new me, a different me, and see what that feels like and see how that changes things for you. And then the last way that one gets challenges is to have a yearly challenge assigned to you, one that breaks a fear. So we have all kinds of fears. There are 4 basic fears. We might have fear of going crazy, fear of being evil, fear of abandonment, and fear of annihilation. And if we can find an activity to do that hits one of these 4 basic fears, then we can overcome it. And so for some people, it might be one that challenges how we face things like skydiving, and could be how we face fear of other people laughing at us. Can we do crazy things in public? Can we argue for different points of views than we normally have? Can we make ourselves do something that we've never done because we have great fear in it? And you always know you have a good fear challenge if you are petrified. But when you tell other people, they kind of shrug their shoulders and go, what's the big deal? That's a great fear. That's a really good yearly challenge because it's the shadow work of not knowing that your fear is not necessary. There's no inherent fear in the fear. It's just your own fear. It's not dangerous. It's not there for a good reason, and that if you can overcome it, the air kind of goes out of it. You kind of poof. It disappears, and you just do whatever it is that you thought you could not do. So these are the 4 paths to awakening: meditation, study, karma yoga, and shadow work. And they all balance well. And if you integrate all 4 of these into your yearly Dharma plan, you'll make fast progress on the path to awakening.